Good evening. Welcome to the school board meeting of February 9th, 2016. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now the Kids at Hope Pledge. As an adult and a treasure hunter, I am committed to search for all the talent, skills, and intelligence that exist in all children and youth. I believe all children are capable of success, no exceptions. Board members, would you join me down to watch our wonderful chorus perform?
We'll ask you to please remain standing for the national anthem.
Wonderful chorus has had, I guess it's a rejuvenation. It's brand new for what, first time in 10 years?
Yes.
That Forest Grove has had a chorus. Ms. Osking has pulled it all together. And obviously, it's absolutely fabulous. Do you want to make a couple of comments?
I'm just so proud of the students, their diligence, their discipline, how hard they've worked and come together with their musicianship. We're really proud of their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Our parents, faculty, staff, supporters, would you wave so we could recognize that you're sharing your wonderful talent with us? As they leave, remember, we start our school board meetings with children because that is our focus. We are all about what's best for individual children in St. Lucie County. We also start with the arts. Because as you know, we have for many, many years made a commitment to having arts in every school. We know that what that does for children's minds, their connectivity, their education as a whole, and how that helps them become a great, well-rounded citizen. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Superintendent, we're ready for our special orders of business.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to the Forest Grove Chorus. That was really an excellent rendition of our national anthem. I'd like to call up Dr. Helen Wild, our CAO, and she will make the next presentation.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Gent. On behalf of the Office of Teaching and Learning, we are thrilled to make a presentation tonight to one of our wonderful business partners and a company that has really shown a lot of support for education in St. Lucie County. And to do so, I'd like to welcome up our Coordinator of Early Childhood Education, Dr. Mary Huffstetter.
Madam Chair, Superintendent, board members, I am thrilled to introduce Ms. Moore from Walmart. And she's going to talk a little bit about the partnership we have here, but we have had a wonderful partnership for the last 4 years with them, and they've been very supportive and really instrumental in our early childhood conference and professional development opportunities that we've had, and also allowing us to purchase extra materials for our pre-K classrooms.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dawn Moore, and I'm with the Walmart Distribution Center. I am the HR manager there, and in partnership with our transportation department, we have $25,000 each year that we can give back to the community. And we have individuals that put in grants, and over the past 4 years, the St. Lucie County Early Childhood Education Department and Professional Development pre-K teachers have put in for a grant, and we've been able to support them. And this year, I'm proud to present a check for $2,000 on behalf of Walmart to your foundation. Thank you.
Board members want to join me down on the floor, and we'll come up for a photo op and accept the big check.
And I am going to ask two of our pre-K teachers who are here tonight who have been recipients of this wonderful partnership. We have from Allapattah Flats, Lisa Newell. And from Bayshore Elementary, Tricia Boodram.
Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Gent, it is my pleasure to move to the next item on the agenda. We know that students are our primary customers, and we do everything we can in St. Lucie Public Schools to make certain that their academic experience is a positive one, from hiring exceptionally talented and caring instructors to being physically responsible with our resources. And we want to make sure that we take advantage of programs that assist in maximizing these resources. One such program that has proven to be extremely beneficial is the FPL, Florida Power and Light rebates that are derived from the installation of efficient energy systems such as thermal energy systems that we commonly refer to as ice storage systems on our school sites. Systems such as these chill the water for air conditioning and help reduce energy bills while still keeping our schools at appropriate temperatures to support teaching and learning. The systems run during off-peak hours to take advantage of Florida Power and Light's time of use rate. Jim Albury from Florida Power and Light is here this evening to present a rebate check resulting from the recent installation of such a system at Lakewood Park Elementary. I would like for you to know that this evening's check is going to be totaling $97,440, and over time, this is incredible, over time, we have reaped the benefits of more than $2,488,000 in incentives by making sure that we are taking advantage of such rebates and incentive programs. So, Mr. Albury, would you please join us?
Thank you, Carrie. Thanks for having me here this evening. It's a pleasure meeting everybody. I always enjoy coming here and bringing a big check to you, except for like on a windy night like tonight. It's a little bit hard to hold on to. So, like Carrie said, this is for the thermal energy storage at Lakewood Park. I'd like to present it to the school board right now for $97,440. Thank you.
This seems to be the season of giving. Next on the agenda, it is my pleasure to be able to appreciate an organization that is also very giving in their nature. This evening, I would like to invite to the podium the CTA-CU Retirees Chapter President, Ms. Barbara Castee. She will be sharing information on a grant program they have, and a couple of our teachers are going to be recipients of this wonderful opportunity from this group. Ladies?
Good evening, Chairperson, Ms. Hensley, Superintendent, and board members. My name is Barbara Castee, and I'm a retired data specialist from Florest Elementary. I am now the president of the CTA-CU Retirees. But tonight, I am here and proud to honor these two teachers, from both of them, which happen to be at FK Suite. Barbara, Anastasia, I hope I didn't ruin that. These two teachers from FK Suite filled out an FEAR Innovative Classroom Grant to enhance their science projects, and they won. It goes in several different levels when they fill out this form. It comes to me, I send it to my district director, and she picks out the ones that she likes, and she just loved them. Miss Anastasia Johnson is our teacher in grade 4 through 5. She's gifted in the gifted classes. She uses the rocket launches to help meet the STEM initiatives in science and engineer. Students will understand concepts of force, mass, and acceleration. Students will identify familiar forces that cause objects to move, such as pushes and pulls. Well, I'm glad that's you. Anastasia, I'd like to present you with a $100 check from the FEAR Retired. Thank you. Thank you very much. Our second winner was Mrs. Barbara Bennett of 3rd grade. She continues her project of the school's food garden, teaching students how to plant, cultivate the ground, and then taste new kinds of fruits and vegetables. Students will learn to describe structures in plants and their roles in food production, support, water, nutrient, transportation, and reproduction. Students will also be able to investigate and describe how plants respond to stimuli such as plant growth towards light and how the roots grow down to gravity. Can I borrow some of your students? I need some of them. And I would like to give Mrs. Bennett a check for $100 so that she can continue her science. Thank you.
Madam Chair, school board members, Superintendent Gent, Martin Luther King Day is an American federal holiday marking the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr., but it's more than that. The origins of the holiday date back to a few months after the assassination of Dr. King, when civil rights icon Congressman John Conyers Jr. introduced legislation seeking to make King's birthday a federal holiday. Although mired in racism and politics, the holiday was not signed into legislation until President Ronald Reagan did so on November 2, 1983. It is observed the third Monday of January each year around Dr. King's birthday, January 15th. It was first observed 3 years after the initial signing, but was officially observed in all 50 states in the year 2000. Stevie Wonder became a prominent proponent and released the single Happy Birthday, which became a rallying cry to popularize the campaign in 1980. And the NFL moved its 1993 Super Bowl 27 from Tempe, Arizona to Pasadena, California, in protest of Arizona, a state openly contemptuous of federal law. The King Day is also observed with equal importance in the Japanese city of Hiroshima and the city of Toronto, Canada. It must be noted that the holiday was not to just honor Dr. King, but to honor a movement that affected all Americans. King's widow said it best when she stated, "This is not a black holiday, it's a people's holiday." Such is the case in St. Lucie County. Organizations from every walk of life work with the commemorative committee to recognize and celebrate the life and work that inspired a nation. For 32 years, St. Lucie Public Schools has been a major partner with the committee and especially the programs that specifically highlight our students, the Spelling Bee, the Youth Symposium, the Essay and Oratorical Contest, and of course, the Festive Parade. Joining me tonight to recognize the school winners is Chair Diane Williams Johnson and committee member Simi Burns, both great employees for St. Lucie Public Schools. We will start with the winners in the elementary category. Third place winner in the elementary category is Village Green Elementary School. Listen up. In second place in the elementary category, Lawnwood Elementary School. And in first place, Francis K. Sweet. In the middle school category, third place goes to Southport Middle School. Second place to Forest Grove Middle School. And first place to Southern Oaks Middle School. In the K-8 category, third place to Oak Hammock K-8 School. Second place to Samuel Gaines Academy. And in first place, Northport K-8 School. And for doing such a wonderful job in the K-8 category, honorable mention goes to Palm Point K-8 School. Simi, it's the last one, very last one. Yes. And for our high schools in the band and NJROTC category, third place goes to Treasure Coast High School. Second place to St. Lucie West Centennial High School. And first place to Fort Pierce Central High School. Mr. Jen, are you going to try to take a picture? Yeah. Okay, all right. As Central goes by and shake hands, I'm going to need everybody to kind of condense this in a couple of lines. I made the mistake of saying Kodak moment the other day, and I was reminded it's an iPhone moment, a smartphone moment, or something like that. I dated myself. Let's congratulate all of our winners in St. Lucie Public Schools for supporting such a worthy cause. Madam Chair, school board members, Mr. Gent, African American History Month is the brainchild of Dr. Carter G. Woodson, a noted scholar and academician with an earned PhD from Harvard University, who originally started Negro History Week in 1926. Every U.S. president since 1976 has designated February as Black History Month. In addition, Florida Statute 1003.42, amended in 2002, is a law that mandates the teaching of African and African American history through the infusion model. Each year, beginning on February 1, an entire month of events are planned nationwide honoring the history and contributions of African Americans. The theme for Black History Month 2016 is Hallowed Grounds, Sites of African American Memories, chronicling the important places in the United States that evoke a sense of Black culture and history. This might include, for example, Mary McLeod Bethune's home in Washington, D.C., 125th Street in Harlem, Beale Street in Memphis, and Sweet Auburn Avenue in Atlanta. In partnership with us, the City of Port St. Lucie adopted its proclamation on January the 25th. And here to present the African American History Month proclamation for us is our outstanding Principal of the Year, Latricia Woolard.
Madam Chair, board members, Mr. Gent, Dr. Perry, thank you for allowing me to read the proclamation for National African American History Month. Whereas the St. Lucie County Board of Education takes pride in joining Americans throughout the county and various parts of the world in recognizing February 2016 as National African American History Month. And whereas African American History Month celebrates the contributions that African Americans have made to American history in their struggles for freedom and equality, and deepens our understanding of our nation's history. And whereas National African American History Month and its origin is 1915 and was initiated in 1926 by Dr. Carter G. Woodson as Black History Week during the month of February, as it coincides with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, two key figures in the history of African Americans. And whereas in 1976, this commemoration of Black history in the United States was expanded to Black History Month, and in 1986, President Reagan proclaimed that the foremost purpose of Black History Month is to make all Americans aware of the struggle for freedom and equal opportunity. And whereas in 1994 and 2002, the Florida legislature passed legislation to ensure that African and African American history content is taught in schools, the St. Lucie County School District continues to take the necessary steps towards the infusion of African and African American history curriculum as part of the content taught and studied in pre-K through grade 12. And whereas the St. Lucie County School District recognizes the significant contributions African Americans have made in our community, state, nation, and world in education, medicine, art, culture, public service, politics, and human rights. And whereas this year's theme, Hallowed Grounds, Sites of African American Memories, chronicles the history of African Americans as it unfolds across the canvas of America, beginning before the arrival of the Mayflower and continuing to the present. from port cities where Africans disembarked from slave ships to the battlefields where their descendants fought for freedom, from the colleges and universities where they pursued education to places where they created communities during the centuries of migration. The imprint of Americans of African descent is deeply embedded in the narrative of the American past. And whereas one cannot tell the story of America without preserving and reflecting on the places where African Americans have made history, these sites keep alive in our consciousness the 18th and 19th centuries. They retain and refresh the memories of our forebearers' struggle for freedom and justice, and their belief in God's grace and mercy. Similarly, the hallowed grounds tell the story of the struggle for equal citizenship during the American century. The Association for the Study of African American Life and History has selected this theme to bring attention to the centennial celebration of the National Park Service and more than 25 sites and the Underground Railroad network to freedom that are a part of America's hallowed grounds, including the home of the father of Black history, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And whereas it is appropriate to call upon our schools and community to observe this month with programs, activities, and ceremonies, and for the school board to recognize and promote these observances and regular instruction district-wide. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of St. Lucie County do hereby proclaim February 2016 as African American History Month and adopted this 9th day of February 2016.
Have a recommendation to read in. I recommend the board adopt the National African American History Month Proclamation 2016 as presented.
Board members, we have a recommendation from the superintendent.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Bill, seconded by Ms. Hilson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0.
Dr. Wild, would you please come back up to the podium and make the next presentation?
Good evening again. Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Gent. February is also National Career Technical Education Month. And so we are here to celebrate that tonight, and I'd like to introduce our Director of CTE, Kathy Schmidt, to come up to the podium. She is going to welcome 3 of our outstanding CTE students who will tell you just a little bit about career technical education in our schools and present the Governor's Proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wild. Madam Chair, school board members, Superintendent Gent, it is my honor and privilege to again come before you in a declaration of February as National and Statewide CTE Month. Career and technical education, as you know, provides tremendous opportunities for our students to connect through career pathways to the high-skill, high-wage, high-demand occupations in their future. I've provided you with a packet that included within is a calendar of some of the many activities that are taking place this month throughout our district. May I highlight just a couple? For instance, our criminal justice teacher from Fort Pierce Westwood, Mildred Brown, is currently attending the 2016 Florida Justice Teaching Institute in Tallahassee by special invitation. On the 19th, Indian River State College, in collaboration with our programs, will host the first ever middle school grade explorations event. We will also have this month students from our Manufacturing Academy at Treasure Coast High School job shadowing with Fort Pierce Utilities Authority, and other students will actually be speaking before their board of directors on the 16th, to name just a few. As you know, career and technical education provides wonderful opportunities, but the message I think it's very important to deliver right now is that it is for all students. It motivates students to challenge themselves in their learning. It makes connections for them between school and the real world. It holds them accountable for their learning with their industry certifications, marking their progress towards what they're going to be challenged with in industry. It teaches workplace skills. It builds character and professionalism, makes true leaders of our young people as they move forward in their professions. And most of all, it prepares them for the workforce, college, or wherever their career pathway leads. There's a slide here that kind of shows you an example of what I'm talking about for their future. Future architects, paramedics, veterinarians, wherever their dreams and their goals take them. And now at this time, I'm going to ask Andrew Caputo to come up here to read the Governor's Proclamation. Andrew is a senior at Fort Pierce Central's Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University Aerospace Institute. Andrew?
Good evening. Career and Technical Education Month. Whereas profound economic and technological changes in our society are rapidly reflected in the structure and nature of work, placing new and additional responsibilities on our education system. And whereas the efforts of career and technical educators with business and industry stimulate the growth and vitality of our local economy and that of the entire nation by providing graduates for careers that are forecast to experience the largest and fastest growth in the next decade. And whereas career and technical education serves as the backbone of a strong, well-educated workforce and contributes to America's leadership in the international marketplace. And whereas career and technical education provides Floridians with a school-to-careers connection, helping students experience practical and meaningful applications of any number of skills. And whereas more than 595,000 secondary job preparation and post-secondary career and technical education students in Florida engage in this type of meaningful education. And whereas secondary schools in all 67 school districts, all 28 Florida colleges, and 47 technical centers offer career and technical education courses. And whereas more than 340,000 secondary CTE students are enrolled in one of over 1,800 registered career and professional education academies, and more than 14,000 registered career-themed courses, and have earned almost 70,000 industry certifications. And whereas over 8,000 secondary career and technical education teachers are inspiring students to succeed in college and careers. And whereas career and technical education offers individuals lifelong opportunities to learn new skills, providing career choices and potential satisfaction. Now, therefore, I, Rick Scott, Governor of Florida, do hereby extend greetings and best wishes to all those observing February 2016 as Career and Technical Education Month. And now it is my privilege to introduce my colleague, Anthony Oreo.
Thank you, Mr. Caputo. Hello and good evening. My name is Anthony Oreo, and I am from Fort Pierce Central's Aerospace Program as a partnership of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Tonight, me and my counterparts all represent career and technical education programs in St. Lucie County. These include Fort Pierce Westwood Veterinary Assisting and Agri-Science programs, St. Lucie Centennial High's Eagle Nest Early Childhood Education and Promotional Enterprise Academies, Treasure Coast High's Industrial Biotech and Manufacturing Academies, Port St. Lucie High's Biomedical Science and Automotive Technology programs, Lincoln Park Academy's Project Lead the Way pre-engineering program, and the many allied health, culinary arts, criminal justice, and computer science programs across the district, and this only names a few. From a personal student perspective, as a member of one of the best CTE programs in Fort Pierce and all of St. Lucie County, many of our students have earned industry certification for unmanned aerial systems, more commonly known as drones. We've earned dual enrollment credits both through Indian River State College and Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And through undertaking programs like this, we've learned the importance of work ethic, teamwork and collaboration, as well as being prepared for college and career success. Personally, for the aerospace program at Fort Pierce Central, unfortunately, I can't break down every class as there isn't enough time here today, but there is something consistent through every course, and that is a broad exposure to a variety of subjects that deal with the science, technology, and engineering and mathematics field. which really is conducive to success, not only in college, but in the STEM career field. We learn through active exposure to problems with real-world applications, whether we're actually in our classroom flying and programming drones, building these UASs, learning orbital mechanics, or even designing and building rockets. We're always active, hands-on learning that we can apply to future career and education. I would like to thank you for allowing me to speak for this program that's opened up so many opportunities for me and continues to direct my future in a positive way. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Bryce Starr.
All right, so as my colleague mentioned before, my name is Bryce Starr. I'm also a senior at the Aerospace Institute. So I have been given the privilege to talk about what you all really want to hear, and that's about how this program has shaped my future. Although this coursework is designed to aid pilots and engineers in their studies, the coursework is widely applicable across all degree fields. As for myself, a student interested in pursuing medicine, I quickly took note that the science and physics that we were learning in the wind tunnel at our facilities are very similar to that in the blood vessels in the human body. With this being said, career and technical education imposes a specific go-get-em mindset, and it allows our students to go out and do amazing things. From internships at highly regarded, world-renowned research facilities to becoming industry certified in unmanned system safety, we end up getting the first-hand experience needed to succeed in our ever-changing world. Rightly so, this program gives us the leg up on the college application and scholarship application processes. We have students in our CTE program applying across varying degree fields to many highly regarded institutions like Harvard, Georgetown, Duke, Brown, and Rice, as well as many students already accepted into engineering programs at schools like Minnesota, Ohio State, and Embry-Riddle. So recognizing the importance of career and technical education, my colleagues and myself, on behalf of the entire Embry-Riddle Aerospace Institute, would like to invite Superintendent Gent and Dr. Prince to visit our St. Lucie County Aerospace Institute. And once again, I would just like to second what my colleagues said. Thank you on behalf of myself and all the others up here for letting us come and talk to you about something that has aided us so far. I'll do it. Thank you.
I'm speechless. But that is an example of the wonderful students that we have and why we say career and technical education is for all students, no matter what direction their dreams will take them, and their hard work and their efforts in learning their academics, their technical and work readiness skills. At this time, I'd like to ask any family members of these students to stand and be recognized. And I'd also like to recognize their instructor, Dr. Kevin Atkins. And personally, I'd like to recognize my staff, Dana Caputo, Dolores Austell, and Karen Lucas Brown. We are truly a team, and I'm so proud of them, and I thank you for this opportunity to share all this with you.
Our last presentation will be our star recipients, so I'll ask the board to join me one more time down on the ground floor.
Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Gent, customer service is definitely something that we strive for. We strive for excellence. It is a key component in meeting the needs of our students, of our parents, and our community members. Each month, we value taking the time to recognize our instructional and support staff members who demonstrate exemplary customer service. And this evening, we will be recognizing 5 of our team members. As I share with you their name and their accomplishment, I invite them to come forward, receive their certificate, and if you'd please remain standing so that we may get a picture of you at the conclusion. To begin with this evening, a teacher at Dan McCarty, whom I had the pleasure of working with, and I'm so pleased to see her coming forward this evening, Mrs. Dennis. She is a teacher leader. She collaborates with math teachers and serves as a mentor for new teachers. She has established great rapport with her students, her parents, and the staff at Dan McCarty Middle School. She has developed a videotape club, and this group of teachers videotape themselves as they provide instruction. They then gather together to watch the videotape and discuss lesson elements and ideas for improving the delivery of instruction. Mrs. Dennis also infuses the ELA standards into her lessons, which promotes critical thinking and collaboration. Mrs. Dennis? Our next individual is going to be represented by Mr. Marty Sanders this evening. He could not be here. His name is Joe Bio. Joe does a great job in servicing our schools. He is quick to solve issues and inform the staff of what he is doing. Recently, Joe was at Lakewood Park Elementary, and teacher Linda Schmier wrote, "I just wanted to let you know that Joe, the air conditioning professional who came yesterday and repaired the air, took the time to show me what had failed and how the heat and air is regulated. I appreciated this information." He definitely went above and beyond his call of duty. And next, we have a member of our transportation team, a bus driver who warmed my heart with her smile this evening as I met her. Mrs. Renee Lang, a driver of bus 2669, recently took second grade students from Bayshore Elementary on a field trip to the Manatee Center. Chaperone Amanda Adams reported that it was just an awesome trip. Mrs. Lang was so positive and fun with the children and had a huge smile on her face the entire time. She even took a minute to explain to a curious child what the reset button on the back of the bus was. Mrs. Adams was very complimentary, and she has already requested Mrs. Lang for their next scheduled field trip. We couldn't do what we do unless we have volunteer support in our schools. And this evening, for our volunteer award, I would like to recognize Mrs. Michelle Rubenstein. Michelle has contributed over 5,000 volunteer hours during her 5 years as a volunteer at Mariposa Elementary. Michelle is the PTO president, where she organizes and participates in all fundraising and school events, as well as the book fair. She assists with anything that is needed, from setting up field day to lunch duty and parent pickup. She even organizes a movie night, complete with popcorn and soda, once a month. She is presently working with the guidance counselor on a shoe drive for students who may need an extra pair of shoes. And lastly, this evening, from our Child Nutrition Services, it is my honor to recognize Mrs. Pinky Smith. Pinky Smith has dedicated 36 years of service to students in St. Lucie Public Schools. She is currently the cafeteria manager of White City Elementary. Pinky is always setting the bar high so that students receive a wholesome, healthy meal. Everyone, every time is the philosophy in her kitchen. Relationship building is her key to success, and she values the employees that she works with. The most important aspect is that all of her customers have an exceptional experience. Having all of these attributes shows what it truly means to serve. Thank you, Pinky, for everything you do, and thank you to our support and instructional staff members. We appreciate you.
from Fort Pierce Central. If you can pull it up, we want to get a picture with you. Mr. Smith, I want you to know that when you all are recognized for an award of grade, the students gave you a standing ovation.
Good stuff. Wonderful things are happening in our county every day. For anybody who has a form filled out to be an unscheduled speaker, would you bring it up to Ms. Harrison? We're ready for the CTA report. Ms. Rodriguez?
Good evening. There was an unscheduled speaker form that was filled out, and I wanted to know whether Chris would be able to speak.
It will be
to the
addressed before we
issue.
do the agenda.
All right, then I'll go ahead and just give you my report and leave that alone. Good evening, and happy February. Tonight you're going to be voting on a few things that we have some interest in as a union, and I wanted to highlight a couple of those things. The first is the 2016-17 calendar, and I have communicated with all of you individually about the calendar, but I did want to say it publicly that we were a part of the calendar process, and I was very pleased with how that process took place. As you know, there are many considerations when creating a calendar, and most of the time you can't make really anybody happy. I think Sue Renew used to say that all the time, like the calendar is like the worst committee to ever be on. This calendar, from our perspective, addresses all of the major issues that we had with last year's calendar, and we feel like it's actually a pretty good calendar. So we urge your support of the calendar. And I believe Mr. Ingersoll and I had a private conversation about future calendars, and so you just keep those things in mind, Mr. Ingersoll. There are a couple of things on the personnel agenda tonight that obviously are of interest to us, and I have a whole long list of I guess, things to say. I guess one thing I do want to talk about is recruitment and retention again. At some point, maybe I'll be able to come and talk about something other than that. I'm on a statewide task force for recruitment and retention, and one of the things that we're doing is collecting district by district data to look at the issue. It's not just an issue in our district, obviously, it's an issue in 67 districts in this state. It's a national issue, actually, as well. Recruiting young people into the profession of teaching, helping them become successful once they're here, and helping them stay and decide that this is a career they're going to stay in for the long haul. It's no coincidence to me, anyway, that in 2011, our state stopped collecting statewide recruitment and retention data from the districts. If you think about 2011, that was the year that 736 went through, and they got rid of continuing status for teachers and ushered in annual contracts for everyone who started at that point. So why keep collecting data when they knew what was going to happen, which is exactly what we had said was going to happen. We would just continue to have this revolving door of teachers. I do hope that we can be part of some type of plan that is a recruitment and retention plan that is specifically designed to look at the green zone schools, but all of our schools. We are still anxious to see some kind of plan. I know that there are there are discussions of recruitment and retention at a lot of different levels in the district, and I hope that we can actually sit down and have that recruitment and retention meeting where we're part of that and talking about what we need to do going forward. Because if you look at your agenda tonight, you'll see quite a few resignations. We're going to see continued retirements, and we are not bringing in enough people to fill those positions, and statewide, but in our district, and that's really because we live here, we have to worry about where we are. I mentioned the personnel agenda, and like I said, I do have a bunch of stuff written down, but I think what would be best is if I just speak to you from my heart about the personnel agenda and the kinds of things that are on there. Jean McGuire is going back to work on Tuesday, and I am thrilled that that is going to happen. I think that we have to, as a district, think about checks and balances and why we as a union exist, why you as a board exists, why there's a separation between the superintendent and the board, why we have a human resources department, and the roles of all of those people. And in a system where the checks and balances fall apart is where we get really bad decisions that get made. And we don't always have to go to the mat. We don't always have to fight. We don't always have to make everything so difficult. 9 months ago is when Jean's ordeal started. 9 months ago. And what the district has lost in those 9 months is a wonderful teacher who could have been with kindergarten kids this entire time. Like I said, I'm thrilled that she's going back to work. She's thrilled that she's going back to work. But what's actually happening is everything that we brought to you is going to take place. She's going to receive all the accommodations she's entitled to. Kids are going to have her services. She's going to be able to finish out her last year of teaching and retire with the dignity that she deserves. And the checks and balances that should be in place, I think we're getting there. But we have to make sure that the people making decisions aren't the people that are reviewing the decisions and making recommendations about decisions, because that is what checks and balances are for. I believe that this is one of those times when our district, it kind of was a perfect storm of really bad things happening at the same time. So I'm grateful that she's going back to work. There are 2 other items on your agenda. One is costing the district $72,000. That's another example of the checks and balances that weren't in place regarding decisions. And I hope that you will think about that as well. And there are 2 other items that I have addressed with you all individually as a group, or brought to your attention, and one that got pulled off the agenda. And I think, again, what I said before, which is when we don't have checks and balances in place and the same people that make the decision about something are the ones then charged with reviewing the decision and then providing guidance or information to others that make decisions, it's really hard to separate that. And when things are looked at with a new set of eyes sometimes, like I believe happened in the Jean McGuire situation 9 months after it should have, better decisions are made for the good of everyone. So I'm going to leave it at that, but we need to continue to maintain that system of checks and balances where you all actually look at what you're given with a fresh set of eyes. And principals and HR and legal don't look necessarily to protect a decision that's made, but look to make sure that the best decision gets made. So that was all I wanted to say to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. CWA report? Seeing no one, we will go ahead and adopt the agenda, and then we will have our unscheduled speaker. Mr. Superintendent?
Recommend the board approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Board members, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Moved by Ms. Holly.
Second.
Second by Dr. Mills. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Ms. Hill?
Good evening, Chairperson Hensley, board members, and Superintendent Gent. Thank you for allowing me to speak to this issue that's on the consent agenda tonight. I would like to address an item on that agenda, the suspension without pay of Kathy Costa. Mrs. Costa is a 26-year veteran of the St. Lucie County School District with a deep care for her students and a spotless record as to her professionalism. Ms. Costa is in the boardroom tonight. She designed the community-based instruction program for students with disabilities who have aged out of high school. She designed this program to give her students the skills necessary to become contributing members of society, to be able to shop, go to a restaurant, and hold down a job. As the program is community-based, it requires that students take regular field trips into the community, as there's no money to have a permanent bus driver assigned to these students. She herself obtained a license to drive the bus. We acknowledge that the incident for which she is facing this suspension occurred, but the punishment does not fit the crime. Even the Department of Children and Families found no reason for action after investigating what happened on that day. She's been out of the classroom since that day, robbing her students of her expertise. This surely is an injustice. There's no precedent for a first-time offense to receive a 5-day suspension. There's a huge difference between making a mistake and an intentional act. This certainly was not an intentional act, and no student was injured during the incident. We should not punish someone for something that could have happened, but didn't. A 5-day suspension without pay is a discipline that is way over the top for this offense. We ask the board to consider all the facts, remove this item for the consent agenda tonight, and look at the whole picture. When a student makes a mistake, teachers are always careful to make sure that the discipline fits the offense so that the student learns from that mistake and can go on. If you allow the suspension to go through, it sends a message to all employees. It doesn't matter how long or how exemplary years you've spent here in the district. If you make one mistake, you're out. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Hill. Board members, we have the superintendent's recommendation of approval of consent items. Do we have any items that need to be declared as issues of conflict or any items to be removed from the agenda for separate vote or discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hilson. Second by Ms. Holly. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Mr. Superintendent?
We're on remarks now? Okay. Couple of things. Yesterday, and I've been doing this for a long time, but yesterday, and I know there were 3 board members there as well, the chair and Ms. Holly and Mrs. Hilson, we had an opportunity to go to Northport Middle School, and the only living Medal of Honor recipient from Iwo Jima was at the school and was invited in. And this gentleman, his name is Woody Williams, Corporal Williams, and he's 92 years old. And the students, I don't know if Principal Ruste, is he still here? I can't tell you, Principal Ruste, and to your staff, how impressed I was and the board was with the presentation itself and your students being there and the effort that went in and the curriculum development that went through and the posters that were made and essays that were written. But before he got up and spoke, I don't know if you saw him, but he was over there crying and holding back his tears. And then when he did get up to speak to the students, made him, I'll paraphrase that, he said this was like something he had never experienced before. And it really was a lesson in democracy. It was a lesson for what our veterans do and how they protect our nation, and something that I don't think our students really see enough of nowadays. He said something since he was born in 1924, that when he enlisted in the armed services, that he didn't even know where the Pacific Ocean was or what the Pacific Ocean was, and ended up going over there. And he was from West Virginia, a small town in West Virginia. But just to hear him speak and the way that the students behaved and paid attention on his words, it was just something that I'll always remember. And I wanted to publicly thank the school and thank the members of the community that made that happen. We had many of our law enforcement folks there that were veterans, as well as veterans from the community that serve us. And so it was a job well done and something that you should be very, very proud of. And I hope you'll take that message back to your faculty and staff. Secondly, the St. Lucie Reading Council, just to inform the board and others that on Saturday, March 5th, they'll be doing a book fest at C.A. Moore from 10 to 12, and we'll get information out regarding that. 2 weeks ago, we had the Academic Challenge, and students from across the district and our high schools compete in the Academic Quiz Bowl, and hopefully in the future we're going to be able to, I'm not sure if we brought or if we videotaped that or not, but if not, I'm going to be able to get that videotaped and something that we share. It's like academic games for our students. First place went to LPA, and we'll recognize them at the next board meeting. Second place to Treasure Coast, and third place to Westwood. And from this competition, students were selected to represent our district in the St. Lucie Public Schools academic team that'll go to the state. And so we have Dominic Keel from Treasure Coast, Nicholas Gomez from St. Lucie West, Jared Diago from Westwood, Carlos Aker from LPA, Malai Kaminga from LPA, and Jeffrey Zhang from LPA. So we'll bring those students, once we go to the state competition and hopefully win that, we'll bring those students, win or lose, up here to be recognized. I also want to thank our early childhood department for the Kaleidoscope of Movement, the conference that was held. We had 2 board members that showed up to that as well, and over 200 early childhood educators came and had a great day. They're there on their own time, and it was a great opportunity, a great event. And then just to remind everyone of February 20th, I'm looking forward to this. It'll be my first one in a long time, the Night of the Stars, which will be at LPA at the LPA Academy in the auditorium, and we'll look forward to that. Also had an opportunity last week on Student Signing Day for the colleges couldn't get to all schools. Next year I'll go to a different school, but I stopped by Fort Pierce Central, and I wanted to congratulate all the student athletes that got scholarships to some prestigious colleges across the country, as well as some smaller schools, and using their athletic prowess, but also their academic successes to be able to get scholarships to college. And just on a little note here as well, I had the opportunity to watch The Little Mermaid, not watch, but to be there in person for The Little Mermaid. And the lead character, Ava, is Ava Ingersoll, and you should be very, very proud. That was a fantastic production, and we enjoyed it. So thank you very much. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Gent. Mr. Harrell. School board members report. Mr. Ingersoll. Dr. Mills.
Yes, I have a few things I wanted to comment on. We had 2 wonderful proclamations this evening. The National African American History Month y'all help me, I'm tongue-tied. Anyhow, was done very well, and so important that we know the history of America and the history of all of America. And the wonderful history of African Americans, and how we help to make this country, this great country of ours, great. And there is some fabulous information. I believe that Ms. Patrick sent out in her Lucy link, a link that goes that you can get to find out more information on African American history and great people who have done great things. Also, I wanted to mention the 3 wonderful young men who came up and did the proclamation on the Career Technology Education Month as well. that department is doing a tremendous job. I get quite a bit time. I've had quite a bit of time to talk with Miss Kathy Smith, Dr. Smith, and we are moving forward in our career in technology, and it's a great thing to see. Also attended the Early Childhood Conference, and Dr. Mary, you did a fantastic job. I don't see you out there right now, but you and your staff did a tremendous job with our early childhood educators, which are our teachers, and in fact, they are the foundation of everything else in teaching our children and getting them prepared to come to us. So it was a worthwhile conference, and the kaleidoscope of movement was a lot of fun. The speaker that we had really kept us moving, and that is what children like to do. So it was a great thing to see. I wanted to also mention our student performances. Forest Grove Middle School, I was, I have an ear for music, and I could hear very professional sounds coming out of those young people. They did a tremendous job, being that they've just begun to get back together again. Absolutely amazing at the sound that came out of our young people this evening. And last but not least, I am returning along with Ms. Hawley from our FSBA, our 29th legislative session in Tallahassee, and it was worthwhile going to. We had the opportunity to talk to many of our senators as well as our legislators. We were able to share with them our concerns, and that we support and that we oppose. And it seemed as if they were really listening. So we visit many of them in their own individual offices as well as groups. And it's important that they hear our voice. But the one thing that we came back with that is really important is that we can't wait until we get to the session, till we have the session to speak to them, because so many people were there from all over. We need to make sure that, especially our local ones, that we go and share with them our concerns and those issues that we support.
Dr. Mills, Ms. Hawley?
Yes, I want to take us back almost a month ago to the Project Citizen Showcase and give a shout out to Kate Ems and her team for putting that great event together. Every year I am just more and more impressed by the quality of the projects that our students come up with, and they get bolder and bolder in challenging us to make a difference, and I really appreciate that from our students. So a shout out to her and her team on that. Enjoyed the opportunity to have our Teacher of the Year visits, which lead up to the Night of the Stars on the 20th. It's always an exciting time to be able to really appreciate and congratulate the fabulous, fabulous teachers we have within our district here. So it was a great visit with all 3 schools on that. We are getting many invitations to be guest readers, and we appreciate those and love that opportunity. I'm always ready for a kindergarten or first grade class, just in case anybody's interested. That's my favorite age, but we really do appreciate those opportunities to be in the school and to be with our kids. Mention also, Mr. Gent spoke of the Medal of Honor ceremony yesterday at Northport, and again, Mr. Este, that it really was moving. A lot of it I know is very personal for me because my son is a Marine, and so I had a little bit of camaraderie with Woody, and we talked for a while, and he just really an articulate, great, caring man, and the type of man that my son joined the Marines to emulate. So it was a great experience to be there and to hear him. And as Dr. Mills said, we did spend most of last week in Tallahassee. We visited with well over a dozen of the legislators from throughout the state, either individually or in small groups. The feeling we got most of the time was that their mind was made up. They would ask for what our things were that we wanted support with, and things that we didn't want support with, and we got several cursory head shakes, and But the important thing is that we were there, and there were probably well over 100 school board members there last week advocating for the educational needs of the students in Florida and asking that legislative body to do what they are constitutionally bound to do. So it's always a neat experience. It's awe-inspiring to stand on the steps of the Capitol and to think about all the decisions that are made there that impact each of us in so many aspects of our lives. So it was an honor to be able to go. At this point in time, the Senate actually has the most favorable budget. And I say at this point in time because the review we get tonight could change that. But if the budget stands as it is, whether it's the House budget or the Senate budget, it would put us about $19 over per student the rate that we were in 2007, 2008. And think how many more students we have to serve now. And we're still underfunded there. So that was a lot of our message, and also the restoration of local control so that local districts can make the decisions for their districts. So appreciate the opportunity, though, to go and represent my fellow board members and all of you in Tallahassee and let them know that there are people that care about education that are watching. So thank you all.
Ms. Holly. Ms. Hilson? Okay. I have several things, like always. I will tag on what Ms. Holly and Dr. Mills said, is that as of today, the funding for Early Learning Coalition, if the increase is there, will still be less than what it was per child when it was started 10 years ago. So we hope for the best, but we're not being able to move the needle very much on that. Early Learning Coalition has one issue besides the financial issue, and that is the seatbelt safety for daycares. They passed a law just in 2014 about that issue, and now there is an anecdote from one area of the state that they're trying to take away that safety measure for our kids that are in preschool and daycares. Not all of the daycares use transportation, but most of them that do have vans, and that is a significant concern. So we did a little due diligence. The statement was that they've been collecting major fines from daycare centers. To our knowledge, they have never collected any fines from daycare centers, that they have actually warned them and given them assistance to get the equipment they needed. They also cited that school boards have their transportation department. Kids don't have to have seat belts, buses don't have to have all these things. That information was corrected, and as along with the concept that just because a center buys a bus that happens to be 15 years old doesn't mean it meets the safety standards of the 2014 bill. So we'll see where that goes. But those were two key issues for Early Learning Coalition. Also, excuse me, we had a meeting in Tallahassee for transportation. Our county finally accepted its 2040 long-range plan. Part of that plan has a significant amount of bicycle paths, sidewalks, and mass transit. We're trying to look a long way out to make sure that our kids get what they need to be safe to the places they need to go. And we took that to the state. The state organization has accepted their plan, which also incorporates most of our issues. Because our transportation planning organization has a significant amount of outreach, our staff went to Washington, D.C. to give a presentation on best practices about how to outreach into the community regarding issues of child safety and transportation. Children's Movement had a meeting today. Didn't get much good news, of course, but we are very focused and we are still committed, and our issues have not changed. But we will put together a plan that is a little bit more concerted, more focused than it has been in the past. We had a group of people, not from our area, but from other parts of the state, who thought that really that all they had to do was explain to elected officials what the issues were, and they would understand and they would vote accordingly. We have pretty much convinced those people that that is not necessarily the way it works. So we will be working on a message that we'll be taking to the business communities in our 4 counties, as well as other places in the state. The arts economics issue has come up, And as you know, we're very committed to the arts, but there's going to be a study regionally and I think nationally regarding the economic indicators of arts, the soft skills that happen, but also the actual finance piece of that, and I hope we have an opportunity to participate in that. We have a new thing going on, that's something actually brand new, and that is carousel conversations. For a couple of years, there's been a group of people who've looked at bringing an antique carousel that has yet to be sold off in parts to St. Lucie County. The concept basically is you get to ride history. It would be something that would be very, very neat and something positive in our community. So we have carousel conversations going on for the public coming up on the 24th of February in the afternoon in Port St. Lucie. Also, after the event the other day with our Congressional Medal of Honor in the afternoon, they had a groundbreaking for the Gold Star Family Memorial. It would be the first Gold Star Memorial in Florida. And because our community, our region, has lost several young people in the last few years, they did the groundbreaking the other day, and those families were in attendance the other day. So there's been a mixture of wonderful things going on in our community and problems that we have to address yet. As we have no other scheduled speeches.
I made one. I don't know if it's an error, but I don't want to have the first mistake I made this year on the record. So Jamie Alberti is here, and he's got some folks here from Del Cassens, and he was approved tonight to be an assistant principal at Del Cassens. So Jamie, stand up, and the Del Cassens crew with you can stand up as well.
Thank you. More good news. As we have no other unscheduled speakers, we are adjourned.